Hello, my name is Tami Lindsay, and I am a magician, an angel energy healer, mentor, and a podcaster. My podcast is on Spotify, and it's Conversations with Light Workers. I have many natural intuitive gifts, such as empathy and clairvoyance and clairaudience. I primarily work with the angels to open up your energy gates, clear energy blockages, and emotions located within the body and the aura. Angelic sessions create a deeper bond with the divine source energy, angels, and colors and emotions. They balance your energy system completely. The angels help me facilitate healing by giving visual images to me and messages so that I can help them. Also, the people that I work with get their own messages. Often it opens your third eye and your spiritual understanding increases. I started waking up in 2008, and during a meditation, I got an angelic being that came in, and I was meditating, and I just felt electricity all over my body. And I had been doing yoga for a while and the meditations, and I was exploring new things. I sort of went through a dark night of the soul in 2008. I went through a divorce. My children, who were 17, 19, and 22, had all moved out in the last 3 months. So I went from having this big, giant, beautiful life to living alone. And so it was all perfect. But at the time, I felt really sad. I felt all alone because I'd been surrounded by my stepchildren and my children and my husband and all of that. And I envisioned this big, beautiful life, and it just sort of dissolved one by one like dominoes. I was fairly successful. I was a supervisor, regional staff. I did a lot of training and development, worked with families to overcome problems. And I had 7 employees. I was traveling around a lot. And I enjoyed my work, but I retired in 2013. And my identity I just didn't know who I was. I had identified as a social worker and a mother and all these things. And so I began a new path. I got on the spiritual path. I leaned into exercise, to art. I started going kayaking, going to meetups. My whole life started changing. And then I really got deep in the spiritual path. I was reading a lot, listening to podcasts. I had always been a fan of Abraham Hicks and Wayne Dyer. And because I was in the social field, it was really helpful to listen to inspirational people and Joe Dispenza, things like that. And I found the teachings of Joshua, and I was listening to that podcast on the Law of Attraction Radio Network. And then I would listen to a couple of other people on there. And I was also listening to the Law of Attraction Solutions podcast. So in 2016, I started going to retreats. I had been going to art retreats and doing yoga retreats, a few of those. But then I started leaning into the spiritual retreats. So in 2016, I got certified as an energy healer, and went back again in 2017. And I started learning things like sound therapy, heart opening. I I did breath work for the first time. And when I did the breath work, this angelic being showed up and sort of initiated me and told me to go to Egypt. There wasn't a lot to it. It was like an initiation ceremony. So I kept on the spiritual path. I was doing a lot of training. I took some certification courses in mentoring, art therapy, EFT, Reiki, and I leaned into Magick. The person that certified me was it was Robert and Rachel Zink, and they have a book about they have several books, but anyway, the one that what I was really leaning into was healing, because I just felt like my life wasn't the way I planned it, so it was wrong. I just didn't feel great. I also learned hypnosis, tantra, and eventually art therapy. In 2019, I did an ayahuasca retreat, and I traveled to Orlando. And during that ceremony, it was really cleansing. I did 3 ceremonies. I felt like I got an upgrade, my body, my mind, and everything. The Pachamama came in, and Metatron. Metatron basically was a lot of geometric patterns and symbols, and the messages I got, I will say Mott came in, M-A-A-T, and I had no idea who that was. She told me to, really get clean, to eat clean, drink a lot more water, let go, and just have more fun. So Metatron, it was mostly geometric patterns, and I got messages like the medicine went through my body and healed my body. And I was feeling some pain, mostly my emotions, and I cried a lot and went home. So in 2020, right before COVID hit, I went to Egypt. Finally got the message, go to Egypt again. And as I was coming home, COVID lockdown began. So I was there in February of 2020, and I traveled through Egypt. I went through all the temples. Mott continued to give me messages, and one was open energy gates 22 and 23, which I had no idea what that really meant, but eventually I came to understand. It meant there were new energy gates opening on the planet during these years. So a lot more people started waking up. And I kind of been just meandering through my spiritual life. And the magic was beautiful, but I still felt like I was not happy all the time. And I just felt like there was just another way to live. So I got the inspiration to call Gary Temple Bodley. I joined the boot camp in 2020 when I got home from Egypt, and started that. And the daily spiritual practices and writing and letting go of my limiting beliefs started working. I started expanding my perspective. I started connecting with new friends. I continued to go to retreats and gatherings with the other people. I started to lean into, some psychic abilities, and just bumping into people that did things I'd never really, I had maybe heard of them, but I hadn't really understood, I'll have to say. And as I would travel around, I went on spirit drive. I was told to go on a spirit drive. So in 2020, I drove across the US. Everything was closed. Grocery stores were open, but I would buy food and eat in my car, traveled. I went through about 15 states, many that I had never been through. I think I ended up going to about 5 spiritual sites, which included the medicine wheel. And so I went around to the medicine wheel, and there is like an energy vortex in Wyoming, and a lot of other sites. As I would drive, I would just stop and go to a state park. And later when I looked them up, they were like really renowned spiritual sites. So it was really it was really interesting. I drove through South Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, all these places. So it was beautiful. And I would just see a place and just go drive to it. And it was really, just explored and had a lot of fun. It was a real quiet time. And in 2021, I went to my first retreat at the Joshua House, and I did 4 breathwork sessions with Genevieve. She is amazing. And each time I would do a breathwork session, more, like my spirit guide would come in. It might be Mott or seem like an angelic presence. They placed or showed, I was shown these energy patterns within my hands, my body. I was doing healing on people at the retreat. And then, I stayed at the Joshua House for like 18 days one time and just explored the area and spent time with other light workers. This way I call it. Light workers are people that are just kind of way showers or on the path. And my awakening continued to expand. So I met a lot of different people with different ideas. So anyway, I met Christy Levy in 2021. We were in Orlando playing an O game, and she was sort of beginning to become a medium. And the cards I got were about my father and these cardinals. And so the thing that happened was my dad came in. And then it was actually a couple months later, I was texting her. I said, "Hey, isn't it time for you to do a reading for me?" And so she had only done a few by this point, probably 4 or 5. And then my dad came in, and she talked to me about some of my my blocks. And the next day I got like 3 visions of what was blocking me. And it really was pretty powerful. And so we just became friends, and we started texting each other, calling each other, and we would spend some time. I went to her house a couple of times and stayed a couple of days. And we just became really good friends, and we'd play these games, and she would be remote viewing and seeing images, and it was really interesting. And she continued to get messages, and she played these games with other people, and her psychic skills really, or her mediumship skills really came in. But I will say, I was one of the ones that we just loved to play the games. And then I did a session on her, and this beautiful white light just surrounded her. And it was really, she just really has an amazing heart. Because when I do sessions on people, they're not always happy. And she's like just little bubble of white light. And divine white light is the highest form of, it's spirit, it's divine. So we continued to be friends, and I leaned in to the angel magic during this time too. I was practicing magic some off and on, doing my daily spiritual practices every day. And then I really started getting more and more messages. So in last fall, I did a mushroom journey with Crystal. And Crystal, one of my girlfriends, you take a little higher dose of mushrooms. And as I was on that journey, there were two spirit guides there. And one was just this giant being of sort of a light blue light. Almost had a face, but it was just really, it looked more like a star, I guess you could say. So during that time, it was Osrael or Israel that came through. And Osrael or Israel is the comforter. And that's probably one of my top skills, is I've always been very easily comforting and calm. And I was given the message to be 10% more love. And Christy and I played with that a lot. She was there, and my perspective continued to shift. Azrael took me on a journey to show me what someone with a cold heart felt like, and what someone who has a warm heart felt like. So then it guided me on a journey to watch my grandkids in love, some of my friendships in love, and just really to focus on being loved 10% more. So it really was profound. And Crystal and I went on a journey. We went to Crystal River. We dove and played in the springs. We played with the crystals in Savannah on River Street. And then we went to Savannah. We went to Daytona. We went all over. We had a just amazing time together. So I've had so many magical adventures since I started going into the spiritual path that they're almost indescribable. And I've been to so many sacred places now. I spent a month in Europe this year, 2023, in April. I went to Iceland, England, Scotland, Wales, and I went to many sacred places. I went to Stonehenge. I went to Glastonbury for a couple of days with one of my spiritual friends. And this was really an amazing thing. And I saw where Merlin was buried. And then as I was going through this journey, it really was amazing. Like Merlin just kept showing up. As I went to the top of the hill, we did a meditation, and my friend said, Merlin's here. And then we came down in the shops, and all the synchronicities were really interesting, because as we went in the shop, a shopkeeper said, hey, you got to go get a hug from Merlin at the Abbey. Well, at the Abbey, we had been to the Abbey, but Merlin wasn't there, but we met another person, and he was a spiritual leader and teacher, and I knew who he was, and my friend did not. So the shopkeeper's like, go get a hug from Merlin. So we go up to Merlin, and Merlin is there. He's dressed like Merlin. He's got this beautiful costume on. And my friend walks up and said, hi, what's your name? And he said, Merlin, of course. And that day, my son, who's in the US, he randomly texted me, Mom, we're related to Merlin. So I got like 5 messages every single where I went that day. Merlin showed up. It was books, hugs. He did ruin readings out in front of the Abbey. So, um, continuing on, um, I I took the foundation class, and there again, I got the foundation in threes because I was doing a magic book with the foundation. I took the foundation class, which was channeled by White Light, Christy and Gary Temple Bodley, and I continued to shift my perspective, and now I just really feel aligned with a loving life. Most of my relationships are beautiful. I meet new people all the time, and they're I kept getting the magical path was the path for me. So, recently I had a light language session with Christy, and then she did another call, and my understanding is that's a ancient language. I've actually been exposed to light language a couple of other times in other places, and you know, I feel like it's it activates and helps you expand. So in the last 3 or 4 years, I would say that my perspective about life has gone from one of fear and suffering to now being at ease. And that's my awakening story. And I just want, people to know that the magical path is perfect.